Hi there! With the upcoming double patch, Mika begins rolling out the electric units, starting with Andoris and Belka. Andoris is a bulwark who doubles as both a generic sustainer and an electric amplifier, providing negative and positive charge, two central mechanics of the electric team. If you're unfamiliar with how this team plays, or wish to know if it's worth your investment, I recommend checking out my recent overview where I explain this in more detail. Here, I will focus on Andoris herself, her gameplay and contribution, as well as her strengths and weaknesses. Without further ado, let's get to it. Andoris starts the battle by using her as one to summon her two auto turrets to the field. Each summoning costs 3 confectance points, so Andoris needs to equip her first fixed key for the extra points at the start of battle to use the skill twice in a row. The turrets inherit 50% of Andoris' attack, which isn't great to begin with, so think of them more as enablers. Once Andoris ends her turn, the turrets will automatically attack the nearest target, dealing single target electric damage. Importantly, the attack applies negative charge, which activates the damage bonus from positive charge and triggers support actions from Lever. Targets affected by negative charge receive additional fixed damage when single target electric damage is dealt, up to 60% of the original damage with Lena's expansion key. After the first turret concludes its attack, it passively applies a second instance of negative charge, thereby triggering Lever's second support action. With 2 turrets, Andoris applies 4 instances of negative charge, which is enough to activate all of Lever's support actions, 3 at most. Note that Lever's support actions were activated before the boss was stability broken. Due to Lever's overstep mechanic, you want to trigger her attacks as late as possible. Because Andoris applies negative charge which makes Lever spring into action, Andoris preferably goes later in the turn order. The reworked Zhang Yu brings a lot of stability shred, making a fast break easier to accomplish. Besides the application of negative charge, Andoris also adds positive charge to the team. With her 5th fixed key, she passively grants the buff to all allies for 3 turns. The buff increases everyone's electric damage by 35% against targets with negative charge. Lever further boosts her damage passively by up to 25% for a total damage bonus of 60%. Andoris reapplies the buff via her ultimate and her expansion key. Before Zhang Yu's rework, this was uniquely her contribution to the team. Besides damage amplification, positive charge also provides healing at the end of a character's action. Here, Lever, who has about 6k max HP, concludes her turn, granting her 20% or about 1200 HP as healing, plus another 15% or about 900 HP because she is within 3 tiles of allies with positive charge. Since this lineup also includes Yuhi, there's even more healing going on, but due to positive charge's healing effect, Andoris is able to sustain any team just fine. Andoris' role as a sustainer doesn't stop there. When allies with positive charge take damage, she will share 45% of the original damage, or 65% with her expansion key, thereby greatly mitigating the damage the team has to endure. When Andoris receives damage, shared or otherwise, she restores 5% of her max HP, gains a stacking 10% defense bonus, and 1 confectance point. The defense bonus stacks up to 5 times and is permanent. Here, she has about 7k max HP, granting herself a heal of 350 HP for every instance of damage taken. This essentially provides extra insurance so that she won't be chipped down while soaking hits for the team, since positive charge applies its healing only after she ends her turn. Since the healing is independent of the received damage, some AoE attacks might even restore her to full health, as she receives healing for every target besides her turrets, which don't have positive charge, here amounting to a heal of 30% of her own max HP. Her self-healing is further increased by her expansion key, up to 7.5% additional max HP. Next, Andoris uses her as 2 to deal single target electric damage for 110% of her attack and to apply the debuff Electro Charge for 2 turns. This increases the stability damage the boss takes from single target electric attacks by 1 and grants 20% of the dealt damage as healing. While we can't see the debuff icon on the boss, you can see the 1.3k healing, which is equivalent to 20% of the 6.7k electric damage dealt. Likewise, the auto turrets now deal 4 stability damage, instead of just 3 before she used her as 2. Other characters with single target electric attacks will also benefit from the additional healing and stability damage, as seen here for Lever. Since Andoris provides plenty of healing already, it doesn't matter too much that this doesn't generalize to non-electric lineups. Keep in mind that the extra stability damage yields higher multipliers for Lever's overstep mechanic, so every bonus, no matter how small, is appreciated. Finally, Andoris' ultimate can be used every 3 rounds. It grants her the undispellable buff Fortified Stance for 2 rounds, which is more damage mitigation for herself. While the buff is active, she benefits from up to 35% damage reduction and lowers received stability damage by 2. More importantly, it grants everyone on the team positive charge for 3 turns, plus 2 stacks of shelter. Except for the start of battle, when Andoris' fixed key applies a buff to the team, you're essentially cycling her ultimate to maintain positive charge. She can also equip a fixed key for a global debuff cleanse with her ultimate, which may shift her rotation slightly to align the cleanse with the stage mechanics. With that, you've seen all of Andoris' mechanics. Her rotation is straightforward and doesn't change with the upgrades. You start the battle by using her as 1 to summon her turrets. By having her 5th fixed key equipped, you won't have to worry about positive charge for the initial rounds of the fight. So long as the turrets are not destroyed or don't need repositioning, you won't be using her as 1 again. Keep in mind that her turrets attack whenever she ends her turn, thereby triggering Leva's support actions. Therefore, you want to wait with Andoris' turn until the target is broken, if possible. Then, she continues by using her as 2 to apply electro charge to the target, followed by her ultimate on the next round to reapply positive charge. The order between these abilities can be switched if you need debuff cleansing early, which Andoris can provide via her ultimate when having her 3rd fixed key equipped. Assuming you don't require her cleanse, you would prioritize her as 2, while positive charge is still active. Since the ultimate has 2 turns downtime, you're essentially just using her as 2 until the ultimate is back up again. Note that Jiang Yu now also applies positive charge via her ultimate for 3 turns, so if you use both on the same lineup, Andoris can simply time the ultimate for team-wide cleanses, unless you really need the damage mitigation. That said, you're already aware of her important fixed keys. You will always want her 1st key equipped for the additional 3 confectance points at the start of battle, so that she can summon her 2 turrets right away. Likewise, you want her 5th key to apply positive charge to the team for 3 turns as the battle starts. Even if you run her on other elemental lineups, positive charge still provides a good amount of healing. Then, you can use her 3rd fixed key for the global debuff cleanse with her ultimate. This effect also synergizes with her expansion key, which applies positive charge to the closest ally, thereby granting her single target debuff cleansing while the ultimate is on cooldown. For boss fights that don't apply debuffs, or when your lineup has enough cleansing, you can equip her 6th key instead, which applies electro charge to the highest HP enemy at the start of battle. Since she uses her as 2 at the earliest toward the end of turn 2, you will essentially bridge that gap with this key. Andoris' signature weapon, Aglaya, provides the team with 10% bonus electric damage. This is fine, but nothing major. She also gains a bit of damage reduction via its trait and a minor amount of bonus healing when ending her turn, but these effects are quite redundant given how high her defensive capabilities already are. The weapon also grants her and her turrets bonus damage, which is even less relevant, since her own damage is terrible. All that is to say, you can safely skip her signature weapon. In fact, if you don't care about squeezing out that extra percentage point of your team's total output, you can just use her as R weapon G36, which provides the same damage mitigation trait as Aglaya. Finally, let's briefly talk about her dupes. Andoris is fully functional at V0, though at low investment her role as an amplifier on the electric team overlaps with the reworked Jiang Yu, who now also provides positive charge. Andoris' damage improves slightly with the upgrades, but she's not part of the new generation of support dolls that become sub-DPSs once fully invested. Therefore, we won't be looking at her damage chart, as her output at V6 is still below that of a V0 damage dealer. Her V1 is a problematic upgrade because it makes her turrets initiate action support when targets receive active single target electric damage. Since the turrets apply negative charge with their attacks, Leva's support actions will get triggered as well. Consequently, you can no longer properly control the timing of the negative charge application, leading to a loss of damage when Leva's assists hit into targets with intact stability. Jiang Yu's massive stability shred may somewhat alleviate this issue though. Andoris' V2 provides a global 20% damage bonus for allies with positive charge, which is essentially permanent and decent amplification when running her on a lineup without a V5 QJ. Her next relevant upgrade is her V5, which adds 15% electric vulnerability to the electrocharge debuff, but of course, given the steep investment, is only worth considering in light of her final upgrade. At V6, she can summon 3 turrets at once and provides a permanent 30% attack bonus to all electric type attacks, which is a massive boost to the team's total damage output. That said, here's a team investment breakdown for Leva's damage output versus Voimastina, the game's new hypercarry benchmark. In this chart, Leva is V6 R1 and her total damage is benchmarked against the performance of an equally invested Voimastina with the V1 Yohi and the V0 Lainey. Note that the V6-R6 Vollmeistina surpasses her team setup, because then her ultimate reaches the 400% defense penetration threshold. Leva's damage increases with more amplification from the electric support characters, which of course improves with their investment. At baseline, she's accompanied by a core partner, a V1 Lena and a V0 Andoris, the most common electric lineup before Jiang Yu's rework. In this setup, which is equally invested as the Vollmeistina benchmark, with a total of 10 character copies and 1 signature weapon, Leva reaches 42% of Vollmeistina's damage output. When exchanging Andoris for the reworked Jiang Yu, Leva's damage increases slightly to 48% of the benchmark. Using a V2R1 Andoris instead of a V0 Jiang Yu, or going with a V2 Jiang Yu instead of Andoris, all amounts to minor differences in Leva's output. With these supports at V6, Leva's gains become more pronounced. With both Jiang Yu and Andoris at V6, Leva's damage is at 95% of Vollmeistina. Of course, you're now looking at an additional investment of 14 copies. As you can see, making the electric team competitive is more of a big spender's passion project. The comparison is somewhat artificial though, since Jiang Yu's damage at V6 is significant, so in reality the total team's output would be higher than the benchmark, which is only carried by Vollmeistina. In summary, Andoris offers a decent amount of healing and damage mitigation, as well as debuff cleansing, ensuring that she is a universally useful sustainer irrespective of the lineup. Her auto turrets provide additional bodies for boss mechanics that scale with the number of targets, and they reliably perform 2 single target attacks every round. The latter makes Andoris a good replacement for Centaurace on the burn team, though if you have invested in Centaurace and intend to skip the electric team, it's not enough reason to pick up Andoris. Aside from being a good trigger of QJ's assists, she also fills that need for the electric team. Her turrets apply 4 instances of negative charge every round, thereby activating all of Leva's support actions. Then, she provides electric damage amplification via positive charge, boosting Leva's damage by up to 60%. Her V2 offers generic 20% damage amplification, but her second best lineup, the burn team, covers the buff via QJC5 upgrade. Her V5 and V6 add more element-specific amplification via electric vulnerability and by significantly boosting the attack of electric type damage. Overall, Andoris used to cover both roles of sustainer and amplifier on the electric team, but now that Jiang Yu has positive charge in her kit as well, Andoris contributes mostly due to negative charge at low investment as an enabler of Leva. Unfortunately, her most impactful upgrade to her ability to boost the team's output is locked behind her V6, which is an unreasonable ask for most players. Unless you really love the electric dolls or money is of no concern to you. Since positive charge provides a good amount of healing, a V0 Andoris spot on the team is no longer guaranteed. As of now, it seems that most current electric lineups still include both her and Jiang Yu, mostly to prevent Leva from applying negative charge herself, which messes up the timing of her support actions. Of course, most CN players obtained Andoris long before Jiang Yu's rework, so they are less motivated to find replacements. Substituting Andoris with the V1 Yohi and Vollmeistina as a 5th member may be more effective in some fights than insisting on a mono-electric team. Whether this will lower Leva's output will depend on the enemy's particular stability and mechanics. Consequently, global players should be aware that Andoris' value is diminished. For now, she's still used for a negative charge application at low investment, but once Mika reworks another character to take that role from her, she'll settle for her niche as a sustainer with extra summons for certain boss mechanics. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Hopefully, this review provided you with a deeper understanding of Andoris' kit and helped you determine the best choice for your account. If you're interested in building the electric team, but don't have a lot of collapse pieces to spare, my suggestion is to prioritize Lena and Jiang Yu first. Andoris is still a decent addition to the team, but her position is no longer guaranteed at low investment. I'll try to hammer out the Belka review before the patch drops, but these sudden double banner announcements aren't exactly kind to your humble content creator. In any case, let me know in the comments what your pulling plans are. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.